On May 12, 2012, I found myself crying at the airport as I left the United States for 3 months abroad in Norway. 20 hours after my tearful goodbye to my parents, I arrived in Bergen, Norway's second largest city and home to 300,000 people. And my home for the summer, thanks to my Burch Fellowship. The first sign I was no longer in Chapel Hill was the weather. It was about 40 degrees when I arrived. Apparently, I had traded North Carolina's hot and humid summer for winter-like temperatures and steady rain. Stepping off the plane, I could see my breath, which was a shock to say the least. I quickly learned to dress in layers because a beautiful Bergen morning could suddenly turn into a soggy afternoon. I was fortunate in that, other than my first week, the weather was picture perfect nearly every day. I am convinced that there's no place in the world more beautiful than a sunny day in Bergen. The goal of my trip was not to enjoy the Norwegian scenery, though it was spectacular, but to intern at the Bjerknes Center for Climate Research, a Norwegian center of excellence that focuses on oceanic and atmospheric changes during the present and in the distant past. My job for the summer was to validate a climate model, which means I compared the output to meteorological data, such as temperature and precipitation. This is necessary to ensure the equations in the computer code are properly capturing the physical processes, such as cloud formation and sea ice extent. Once you know the model does a reasonable job of simulating current climate, you can then predict the future. While at the Bjerknes Center, I worked with Dr. Stefan Sobolowski, an American who had moved to Norway a year prior. Not only was he immensely helpful with my summer project, but I quickly found we could talk about topics ranging from the stress of applying to graduate school to the current economic crisis in Greece. He welcomed me into his office, I even got my own computer, and helped me get accustomed to living in a foreign country. From this project, I learned how much work goes into a single run of a climate model, and that while models are generally able to simulate sophisticated problems, they do not always produce what we expect. However, my Burch summer was about so much more than a single model validation. I learned what it is like to be engaged in an academic setting with projects, meetings, and collaboration. This trip helped me realize what I would and would not like to do with my academic career after I graduate from UNC. I believe Norway was the perfect location to first step foot into the academic world. Since it is such a green country, they embrace climate research and invest in science for future prediction and protection. Most importantly, though, is that my 3 months in Norway allowed me to grow as a person. Prior to my departure, I was terrified at the idea of being on my own all summer. However, I quickly learned that I was not alone. In my summer housing, there were dozens of international students. I met people from Spain, Germany, Nepal, Poland, and Norway, of course. We joined together for group dinners and ate barbecues on top of a mountain. We hiked and enjoyed the music festival together. They taught me how to bake bread, and I taught them more about the little-known state of North Carolina. I have never met a more welcoming group of people, as evidenced by when they helped crowbar my room open after I locked myself out during my first week. Besides meeting new friends, my stay in Bergen helped me become more independent. Chapel Hill is only 30 minutes away from my home in Raleigh, so this was a chance for me to experience living by myself. Bergen gives off the impression of being a safe city, filled with helpful people, so I never felt discouraged from exploring all over the city on my own. On sunny weekends, I joined the crowds reading by the lake, or hiked up one of the 7 mountains that surround the city. Though, after a long day of adventuring around downtown, it began to feel as if every street led uphill. I think the most memorable part of my time in Norway was when my dad came to visit. By that point, Bergen felt like home, and I was excited to show him my beautiful town. We were able to visit other parts of Norway as well, and I will always cherish those memories we share. Plus, it was fun to watch him be awed by the long hours of daylight, much like I was when I first arrived in Bergen. Since the sun didn't set until 11 or 12, I did not truly see a dark night until I returned home to Raleigh in August. By the end of the summer, I was pleased with the skills I had gained at the Bjerknes Center, like improved programming knowledge and an increased appreciation for climate modeling. And as excited as I was to return home to see friends and family, it was much harder to leave than I was expecting. As I took the bus to the airport, it seemed I had come full circle because I was once again tearing up while leaving a place I had come to love. My time in Bergen shaped me to become a braver person, one that is more willing to go on these great worldly adventures. Thanks to my Burch Fellowship, I have my sights set on similar traveling in the future to continue my study of climate change. And maybe one day I'll find myself back in Bergen, the little coastal town that I'll always hold near to my heart.